Hey everyone, welcome to Meeple Bits. Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to go through a setup and how-to for the game Raiders of Scythia. Raiders of Scythia, designed by Shem Phillips, published by Garfield Games, for 1 to 4 players with a playtime of roughly 60 minutes. So join me as we go through this sort of spiritual successor to the game Raiders of the North Sea, Raiders of Scythia. Before we begin, let's take a look at the components that are going to come out during the course of play. Here we have the quest tiles, the gold, equipment, livestock and wagon tokens, silver, different dice that you're going to use during different combat conditions, the victory point markers, the different types of workers, wound tokens, kumis, and provisions. This is the main player board. On the left side of your tableau is where you place your leader. On the right side, there are 5 spots so that you may add your different crew members. You'll place eagles underneath the board above the crew members and horses underneath the board below the crew members. In this section is the end game victory conditions for scoring gold, equipment, wagon, and livestock. And then down here are the max number of resources that can be had in your hand at any time. You'll notice silver, they're all 8 or less for silver, kumis, provisions, and cards. Here's some examples of cards that are going to come out during the course of play. In the lower left is an example of one of the leaders that would be available that you'll draft at the beginning of the game. In the lower portion of the card is its power or ability when activating at the town center for an action. These are different types of crew members that you'll be able to hire or play during the course of the game. In the upper left corner of the card indicates its strength as being a part of your crew or for other necessary actions. On the left side is the type and the cost to hire them into your hand. On the lower left is the action for when using the barracks to hire them into your crew. And the lower right shows you the action or ability when using them in the town center. The eagle and horse cards are sort of dual-sided, or I guess top and half and bottom half, so that you can put them either above or below your crew members. These areas will indicate if there's any specific powers or abilities that will activate when used, as well as any strength and endgame victory points for having them as a part of your crew. This is the massive play board that we're going to take a closer look because getting this in one shot's almost impossible. Zooming into that massive board is the main village area. Over on the left side is where you're going to place 2 tiles or 2 quest tiles face up. Along the top of the board is the victory point tracker, and it also goes around the sides, which is a little off view right now. In the center are the different areas where you're going to take actions when placing or picking up your worker. We'll dive into these a little bit later when we talk about the actions when placing workers in these locations. The first area below the village is Chimeria. Take notice of this location along the right side, as well as all the locations subsequent for 3 and 4 players. Only populate these areas if you have a 3 or 4 player game. Otherwise, you're only going to use the first 4 spaces. These squares are where you're going to put quest tiles face down. Along the top of each section or each location, you're going to put the different type of worker as indicated, as well as the number of plunder randomly pulled from the bag. The left side shows the die that you're going to roll when taking a plunder action in these locations. This indicates the strength required to begin your sort of raid of these locations, and depending on how much strength you accomplish when raiding, the reward or outcome of the battle. At the bottom is the different type of worker required to raid the location, the required number of crew members, as well as the required number of provisions. Each location is similarly set up, starting with Assyria, Persia, and lastly, Greece. Along the bottom of the board, or underneath the grease location, you'll notice the red, white, and yellow or gold dice. This will tell you the odds that each of the dice have, just for reference. To begin setup, shuffle the quest tiles and put them in each location around the board. Along the right side, take notice of the player count, and in grease, they will get no tiles. Start by placing 2 tiles face up in the village, then face down in all areas that match your player count. Next, we're going to fill up each location with plunder. Take all the plunder, put it into the bag, give it a good shuffle, and then begin filling up the areas. Each location will tell you how much plunder they get, so take notice of the blue icon above each location, and then start to fill up all the areas. Take the remaining plunder and create a general supply. Also add the silver, the kumis, the provisions, the wounds, and the dice. Next, place a worker in each location. Gray workers here, red workers here, and in the main village area, on the bottom 3 locations, place a blue worker in each location. Next, give to each player a player board of their chosen color, 3 silver, 1 provision, a blue worker, and a victory point token, which they should place on the 0 marker on the track. Now that the main board and resource area is set up, let's create draw piles. Start with the crew deck, give it a good shuffle, and create a draw area next to the board. Then, take the animal cards, do the same thing, give it a good shuffle, and create a draw pile next to the board. Take all the leader cards, and then draw out, face up, 1 card equal to the number of players plus 1. So in this 3-player game, we're going to deal out 4 leaders to choose from. The rest can be returned to the box. Draw a crew member card and pair it with each of these leaders. Then, in reverse turn order, players are going to draft them. So the last player will pick first player last. Once you've got this set up, go ahead and take out 3 animal cards that are going to be made available to choose from when taking the necessary action in the village. Once all players have elected which pile they want to choose from, so let's say I were to draft this one, and then the next players would go ahead and take their cards, discard anything that's remaining. Once all players have their cards, their leaders drafted, each player should receive 5 crew member from the deck. Take those 5 cards, choose 3 of them to keep, and discard 2. When everything is complete, your player area should look something like this. You should have a leader on the left side, a crew member on the right side, a blue worker, 3 silver, and a provision. In future turns, when you elect to draft an animal that is an eagle, go ahead and put it on the top of the player board, and putting horses underneath so that they're on display so that you can see their powers and strength. On your turn, you can either choose to work or raid. So in the case of work, you're going to put a worker into the village, do its action. So in the case of this farm, I would place a blue worker and take 2 provisions. Then you're going to pick up a worker. So if I say pick up this one from the meeting tent, I'm going to then draw 2 cards or draw a card and 2 kumis. So that's taking an action, but let's look at each of the different locations so we get a better idea of what you can do in each of the village locations when choosing to do work as an action. In the stables, you're going to place either a gray or red worker, blue workers are not valid, and pay 2 silver to collect an eagle, or pay 1 equipment and collect a horse. In the chief's tent, your options are to pay a livestock to collect 2 food and a kumi, or you can then go on a quest. Those quests can be taken from here at the village or any flipped tiles from previously rated locations. In this example, you would then go on the quest here in the village, pay 1 wagon, 2 equipment, and take this tile, which is later worth 6 victory points. In the barracks, you're going to be able to hire a crew member into your party, or pay 1 kumi to remove 2 wounds from any of your crew members that have been injured. In the town center, you have the option to play a card and its subsequent action and rewards from your hand, or activate your leader's ability. At the silversmith, you can place a blue worker to collect 3 silver, or a gray or red worker to collect 2 silver. In the meeting tent, you can collect 2 cards from the draw pile, or 1 card and 2 kumis. At the farm, you can place a blue or gray worker to collect 2 provisions, or placing a red worker will give you 3 provisions or a wagon. In the market, you can discard a single card to collect 2 silver, or discard 2 cards from your hand to collect either a wagon or an equipment. So you're ready to begin raiding. First, make sure you have the right type of worker for the location you're raiding. Here, either blue or gray. Then you'll notice above it the rewards for the minimum strength for each of them. In the cases where there's gold plunder, you must also roll, in addition to the die that is required for the location, so here a red die, you must also roll a gold die for each gold in the location. So if we're going to raid this first location, I must have 2 people in my crew, which I have here, and that totals up to 7 strength, and then I must also pay 3 provision. Once I've paid its cost, then I'm ready to begin the plunder. So I take the red die and the gold die because there's a golden location, and then I add up its score in addition to any strength that my people have. So I had 7 strength already, and I've just added an additional 4. So my reward is going to be the right spot of the rewards track. So 4 strength minimum gets me 1 victory point. I'll collect the plunder and pick up the worker and flip the quest tile. Let's say, for example, the die rolled on a 3 here with a wound. Well, I would then take a wound token and give it to any one of my crew members that were part of that raid. So you've raided and plundered. Now it's time to do endgame scoring. Start by tallying up any crew members as shown on the bottom left section of those cards. Then take any animals that also have any victory points that are a part of your crew. Next, any quest tiles that you've obtained during the game. And lastly, the plunder. Each gold is worth 2 victory points, equipment 1, wagon 1, and 2 livestock equals 1 victory point. Tally this up, and that's your victory points. In the case of a tie, the player that has the most total silver, provisions, and kumis is the winner. If still tied after this condition, the win is shared. So that's a setup and how-to for the game Raiders of Scythia. So I'm not going to do any turn examples in this one. I'll try to get sort of an extended playthrough up later, guys. So stay tuned for my afterthoughts while I go ahead and tear down the table. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed that setup and how-to for the game Raiders of Scythia. So where do I begin with this one? Well, I guess let's start with components as I often do. The components of this game are exactly what you would expect from a game designed by Shem. They're really solid, really well made, and they fit well with the theme. The box insert leaves a bit to be desired like most of the games, but it fits in a very small, compact box, so, give and take, I suppose. So you guys might know this about me, but Raiders of the North Sea is probably one of my all-time favorite games. So if I were to ever put together a top list, that game would absolutely be there. So this spiritual successor to the Raiders of the North Sea game, really welcome. I had a great time playing it. I'm absolutely glad that I added this one to the collection. One thing that I absolutely enjoyed about this is that you can get into the raiding much faster. So in Raiders of the North Sea, you've got to do a little bit of building up before you can get out there. Whereas in this one, because you basically start with that first person, and you've got that hero already, in your tableau, then you can start raiding after basically the first turn, which is really good. So there's not a lot of early slow buildup that you're going through. So it really promotes that getting out there aspect. Everything else about the game is pretty similar to Raiders of the North Sea. So if you're a fan of Raiders of the North Sea, then you're probably going to enjoy this one as well. Another reason why this one I might start to bring to the table a little more often is simply because with the Raiders of the North Sea, I do have to also break out the expansions, add the modules so that I can get the best playable experience possible. Whereas with this one, the addition of the eagles and the horses do a really good job of, I guess, adding that sort of streamlined process. My biggest qualm with the game, though, is the art. I am not a fan. In fact, the art might be a reason why I may always bring Raiders of the North Sea to the table over Raiders of Scythia. Reason being here is that you guys might have noticed during the how-to part, but the colors are really, I guess, muted. They're kind of bland. Some of the art is nice, like when you look at the box, the colors here are really good, but on the actual board, especially when it comes with the provisions, they kind of just almost blend in with the stuff that's on the board. The iconography is pretty good. I think Raiders of the North Sea does a better job with their iconography, whereas in this one it does a passable job. So those are, I guess, my biggest issues really with this game. Nothing to do with the play, nothing to do with the mechanics. Everything about the game is solid and really well done. But the artwork for me, how it's implemented is kind of a turnoff. So why should you add Raiders of Scythia to your collection? Well, if you haven't already gathered, it's because you're a fan of Shem's games and you're a fan, like me, of Raiders of the North Sea. And that alone is a reason to add this one to your collection, because if you've played Raiders of the North Sea, then this one, real simple, you can just dive in. The rule set is very similar, very much the same in all the best ways. A reason why you may not want to add this to your collection, again, for reasons that I've kind of explained, the art style is not really for you. That's probably the only reason that I can truly come up with as to not getting Raiders of Scythia. But that's such a small, I guess, negative that, it almost overshadows, it doesn't overshadow anything else, because there's just too many positives to the game, like being able to get out there and raid sooner, the streamlined process, starting with the people, the eagles, the horses, all the mechanics of the game with the worker placement genre are just so good that this is just a phenomenal game. Will it overtake Raiders of the North Sea for me? Maybe in some ways, but definitely not because of the art. So yeah. Anyway, guys, if you have any questions about the game, please feel free to leave a comment down below. Happy to help out the best way that I can. If you've enjoyed the content, really appreciate the support, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Until next time, thanks so much for watching.